Hello, my name is Judy Gray Hudson. I became a member of the Purdue Drill Team Auxiliary in the fall of 1962. Pdta Pdta was the commanding officer at the time, Sue Enston was the executive officer, and Bonnie Graham was the drill officer. As I recall, there were about 12 of us in our pledge class, and I was fortunate enough to be chosen to be the drill lieutenant for the pledge class. And we worked really hard trying to get those maneuvers down pat so we could become actives. And during this process, we had a drill down with the plebes of the Purdue drill team. And as we found ourselves during this drill down, one plebe and one pledge and one plebe and one pledge being eliminated from the competition, it came down to just two people, myself and Larry Hudson, who was their drill lieutenant. And I'm happy to say that I won this competition. Larry didn't hold it against me, though, as several months later we started dating, and several years later, as you can tell by my last name, we were married. The Pdta was founded by the Pdt in March of 1960 under the leadership of Terry Ryan. The Pdta trainers were Jerry Friedman, their executive officer, and Ed Smith, their service captain. This first pledge class numbered 28 at the beginning, and 23 were eventually activated. The Pdta Pledge Board was a rearrangement of the Pdt Plebe Board, as you can see here. The first uniforms that the Pdta wore were black pleated skirts, a powder blue blouse, a white fourragere on the left shoulder, white gloves, white nurse's shoes, and a cream beret. We carried no weapons or flags, we just concentrated on precision marching. The team's first public exhibition was at Clinton Central High School in December of 1960, followed by one at Klondike High School in 1961. Over the years, the team performed or competed at the Purdue Scabbard and Blade Invitational Drill Meet, the Pershing Rifles Regional Drill Meet. We also went to Illinois, Ohio State, and Detroit. In the spring of 1963, we changed our uniform slightly. We went to a blue plaid kilt with a matching tam. We added dark blue knee socks and a blue ascot to go along with our fourragere. We added a white belt, kept the white shoes, which we call the nurse's shoes, and our white gloves and the fourragere. April of 1963 began the first of 3 annual trips to Washington, D.C. for the National Drill Meet and the Cherry Blossom Festival Parade. In order to fund these trips, we sold a lot of chocolate chip cookies, we sold blitzcloths, and we also worked the concession stands at the home football games. We placed second in our first national competition, and we were very pleased with that finish, and it was very exciting to bring home the second place trophy in the shape of the Washington Monument. I believe that year the Ball State Marching Mademoiselles came in first at nationals, and they were our biggest competitors. It was kind of hard to compete against a team with all the girls were tall and thin, dressed in black all the way down to their black hose and their black high-heeled shoes. They had a slower cadence than most of the marching teams, and they just kind of seemed to slink going down the floor. They turned a lot of heads, even before they got on the competition floor. So in the spring of 1964, we decided we were going to try something different to see if we could add a little pizzazz to our marching in order to bump them out of first place and put us in that position. So when we went to the Nationals that year, we added sabers that we carried. We didn't carry them in the parade. We were going to keep this a big, deep, dark secret. So when we marched out on the competition floor at the National Drill Meet in '64, we carried our sabers for the first time. Unfortunately, we didn't get the first place finish that we were hoping for. We finished 5th. We finished the competition year carrying the sabers, and at the end of that '64 season, we put them away and decided we just needed to concentrate on our marching and not worry about carrying anything else. Because of dwindling numbers, the team did not compete again after the 1965 season. In April of that year, we attempted to enlist the Navy ROTC unit to sponsor the Pdta, but that did not materialize. So finally, in the spring of 1969, the Pdta officially came to an end, and most of the girls end up going to the Army ROTC sponsored ladies drill team called the Grenadiers, or to a similar team sponsored by the Navy ROTC unit that they had formed since we spoke to them originally. The very short sequences that you're about to see are the only footage known to be in existence today of the Pdta. The first is at the Scabbard and Blade drill meet at Purdue University in February of 1963, and Bonnie Graham is the drill officer for that exhibition. The second sequence is at the Dad's Day exhibition at the Purdue Armory in February of 1965, and in that sequence, I'm the drill officer. I hope you enjoy the video.
Before the films that Judy just spoke of, 2 other videos which surfaced have been inserted at this point. This spring 1961 meet was at the University of Dayton at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. While not certain, it's believed Edie Knobloch was the drill officer. Hi, I am Georgia Perrin Wright, and as a freshman was a member of the spring 1960 Charter Pledge class and subsequent charter member of the Pdta. I marched at the 1-1, 1-2, 2-1, and 2-2 positions and served as clerical officer and public relations officer. As you can see, at this Dayton meet we marched a 16-member unit, but we also marched in units of 24. And even though this was an exhibition meet, we did receive a trophy. Traveling off campus in buses to meets provided a brief respite from academia, allowing us to relax and eat with our teammates and the Pdt, to joke around and sing sappy songs. But the most important part of each trip was spent preparing mentally and being very serious about why we were there, that being to do our very best to represent Purdue University, the Pdta, and the Pdt. As a pledge, one of my sweet memories was spring 1960 down by the river, watching the Pdt's tug-of-war competition across their huge man-made mud pit. What fun! And a couple of the highlights for me as an active member were marching in our nation's capital and winning the Pdta Drill Down Trophy in 1962. Dress, fudge factors, individual errors. Remember those? Of course, if we had those 3 things under control, we usually won first place or did a first-class exhibition, as we did at this Dayton meet. Georgia Perrin Wright speaking again. This also was an exhibition for us at the 1962 Purdue Invitational Drill Meet with Bev Telkamp as drill officer. The 2-step hand salute that you will see later in this clip was designed just for us for distinction. In reviewing my memorabilia stash, a few things about pledging that I was reminded of were that on our pledge boards, the 7 gold stars represented the 7 original members of the Pdt, and pledges needed to know how to spell fourragère. Can you still spell it? Our charter pledge class officers were Commanding Officer Gene Willoughby, Executive Officer Sharon Powell, Adjutant Nancy Lemon, and as actives our first commanding officer was Rose Gasser. As pledges and as actives, we attended drill practice 3 hours a week, plus a weekly meeting. Our initiation fee was $5, semester dues were $2, and on Monday, May 30th, 1960, 23 pledges were activated and our lives were never the same after that. While I have forgotten many details of my years with the team, over subsequent years I found myself doing 2 things rather consistently, even occasionally to this day, and I've often wondered if any of you do too, and those are that often when I walk a short distance between 2 points, I start with my left foot and mentally count my steps, and when I come to a stop, I often lightly snap my right foot up to my left at the 45-degree spread. Weird. My 4 years in and around the Pdta and the Pdt is locked inside an honored recess of my heart. I cherish those years and my memories of all of you. May God bless you.
I'm Bonnie Graham Raybert. I pledged the auxiliary in the 1960 Fall Pledge class and marched in the 3-1 position. I served as training officer and drill lieutenant, as in these next 2 sequences. This tape is as fuzzy as my memories of the movements we did for drill meets, though I can still execute left flank, right flank, and about face. Can you? Thank goodness for Sue Enston Andrews' parents, who filmed several of our meets. They highlight our participation and accomplishments. Kathy Johnston Cook still recalls the songs we created on bus trips to competitions, and she still has copies of our movements. Amazing. After graduation, we dispersed to various places and careers. A few stayed in touch, some have reconnected at reunions, and some are hard to find. But we all took with us a sense of teamwork and accomplishment, leadership, discipline, and a respect for authority. While we changed uniforms several times, we never altered the goal of being a drill team worthy of being called the Purdue Drill Team Auxiliary. Pledges were chosen on the basis of enthusiasm, determination, and discipline. Those who completed the pledge process and became members of the marching unit attained the pride of accomplishment evident in our marching routines. We placed first in this Purdue Invitational meet as we did for 3 consecutive years. We took a 16-woman unit to this meet and traveled by bus to Ohio State. At this point, we were wearing the blue plaid kilts, powder blue blouses, plaid Scottish hats, dark knee socks, white shoulder cord, gloves, and those sensible shoes. Some familiar faces: Georgia Perrin, Kathy Johnston, Bev Telkamp, Enadina Apodaca, Sue Enston, Shirley Babcock, Mary Fusick, and Judy Gray, ready to compete. Jim Harper taught me the guttural command voice necessary for marching in large and open spaces. I believe he worked with other Pdta members and Bev Telkamp to develop our movements. We practiced at the co-rec gym on campus to create our routines, and then rehearsed in the larger Purdue Armory. But no indoor arena was ever as large as the National Guard Armory in Washington, D.C., where we competed on 5 April 1963 for the national championship. We placed second in the nation to Utah State. My what-ifs as drill lieutenant always centered around my face-to-face encounter with a Marine judge and my choice to keep moving ahead and back him up rather than mark time or go around him, and the fact that we ran slightly over time in our 9-minute sequence. While disappointed not to get a first place, we came back and worked even harder to earn first place at this Ohio State drill meet on 10 May 1963. This completed our first full year of competition with a record of 3 firsts and 2 seconds. We did our best to honor the position of auxiliary to the Purdue drill team, best in the nation, and to have fun with a special group of men and women. These are special memories.
The auxiliary members believe that this cake was to honor the anniversary of the founding of the auxiliary. This is the only clip of the auxiliary marching in the Cherry Blossom Parade, and they are approaching the reviewing stand.